Okay, very good.
Lovely.
All right, I thought I'd put together a little summary of what's been going on with device drivers. It's been a while since I've talked about these things, so some of the information is like over the past year, but it's good to know what's been happening. Let's talk about ACPI first. The current version is 3.23.18. ArcaOS 5.1.2 will have version 3.23.19. Recent changes. ACPI dump works on more systems. This may not be of interest to many people, but it's part of the diagnostic tools. When you run TestLog, it uses this program.
Is this the thing Yuri was talking about?
I don't think so. It has a fix for systems with multiple root bridges. These are rare, very complex systems, but we do see them from time to time. And this can cause problems for the bus processor that tries to set up the bus. So that's been fixed. The power manager was updated. When I originally wrote this, we had computers with 2 cores or 4 cores, and that was about it. So the way it used to work is that when it detected the system got busy, it would just turn everything on, all the cores, all the process on all at once. And when you only have 2 or 4 cores, that's not so bad. But when you got 16 or so, that's a big deal. It's a big power spike. It's a lot of power, and you probably don't need all 16 all at once. So that was changed to turn them on more slowly. It'll kind of ramp up now, rather than just blanketly turning them all on. And also it turns them off about kind of more intelligently too along the way. So that's been changed.
So this is what improved the situation?
Apparently so.
Yeah, it seems so.
Apparently so.
I don't get any
It's a
of these
side
things
effect.
anymore.
It's just managing, just being less aggressive about just blasting them all on.
So somehow it fits with whatever the kernel is doing there and no more.
Yeah,
Is
kernel's
this the thing
not
you were talking about?
not
Yes.
really involved.
That's the
Yeah.
thing.
The issue that you were talking about is actually quite different.
Mhm.
I can talk about that, but it gets rather involved. I'm willing and able, but
I want to hear.
there is the issue that he reported has to do with poorly behaved programs running, essentially running in a thread, and then an IPI coming in, interprocessor interrupt.
Mhm.
If an interprocessor interrupt happens on a core that's running one of these applications that is just spinning without really doing
Not
anything,
calling into the kernel.
without calling into the
Yeah,
kernel,
that's
without
the
doing any kernel calls.
Mhm.
That's the important thing. If you get an IPI while you're spinning in a thread without doing kernel calls, you can get a temporary hang on all the cores
Oh.
until that thread makes a kernel call. Then the system starts running again.
Wow.
It's never a permanent hang.
It keeps running?
Yeah, yeah. It's just a temporary stop because IPIs are issued to all the kernels, all the cores simultaneously. And if one of the threads, if one of the CPUs is spinning and not allowing that to process, then everything stops and waits for that one to finish. When it finishes, it actually calls into the kernel so the scheduler can reschedule stuff. Then everything takes off and starts running again.
Right.
So that's when I've been thinking about a fix for that, and I've not come up, I have some ideas. Part of it has to do with the way we have IPIs implemented. IPIs do not go through the kernel, normal interrupt processing system, the way we've implemented it. And that is also part of our power management issue because in the SMP kernel, IBM did not implement halt instructions for idle CPUs. Okay, in the SMP kernel, CPUs just spin all the time, even if they're not doing anything, consuming full power. Okay, a long time ago, I implemented halt instructions on during idle time, but I was not able to implement it on the secondary CPUs. It's only implemented on CPU 0. And the reason for that is the only way to wake up from a halt is an interrupt. And on OS 2, we only process interrupts on CPU 0, not on any of the other CPUs. So if we ever halted the secondary CPUs, they would never wake up. So that's why it wasn't done. So I'm thinking about a way to actually make that happen, to actually spread the halt instruction to all the other CPUs and implement a mechanism for waking things up in a timely manner when they need to. It's not an easy task. And that would fully solve that issue that you were talking about before.
And powering off the specific CPU is not the same as the halt instruction.
I'm sorry?
Powering off turning off the core is not the same as
No.
halt instruction.
No. When a CPU is disabled, it's actually taken out of the scheduler, and it is halted using the halt instruction.
Yeah, but since it's out of...
It's out of the scheduler. The scheduler won't schedule to it anymore. Whereas on CPU 0, the halt instruction is actually, I patched it into the scheduler loop. For when the scheduler detects that there's nothing to schedule, it'll halt. And of course, on that CPU, the reason there's nothing to schedule is because it's waiting for I/O usually. And what happens when I/O is finished, you get an interrupt and it wakes up the CPU and everything runs fine. That's how every other operating system works, and that's how ours works too for CPU 0 only. All the secondary CPUs run at full speed, full power, all the time they're enabled. So they're consuming tons of power and generating lots of heat. That's why we try and shut them off if they're not needed. And that's also why turning on 16 all at once is not a good idea. And that was the impetus for me making this change to the power manager. That's what generated this change.
Nice.
Once we have the halt instruction support on the secondary CPUs, powering them off this way won't be necessary?
It won't be necessary, no.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I complicate your life a little bit?
Why not?
On Windows 2, seamless sessions, for some applications, it will slowly gum up the system. Meaning, if I move the mouse cursor into the application and just let it sit there after 30 or 45 seconds, all the processors seem to go high and it's almost unresponsive. If I turn off all the secondary processes and turn them back on, the problem goes away. So when you're thinking about...
That has nothing to do with this. I'm pretty sure it's totally unrelated.
Okay.
Is this on a UEFI system?
It's running as, it's booting, it's a UEFI system, but it's not
You're
booting.
using the CSM.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your problem. If you convert it, switch it to a full UEFI system that you're not using the CSM video stuff, that should go away.
But it snaps, so.
Yeah, that problem you're talking about with the 100% CPU usage happening in VDMs, that is a known problem for CSM-based systems.
Mm.
One other thing
Happens a lot.
is it actually a bad idea not to run multiple CPUs in a VM? Like I hear people say, oh.
Is it a bad idea to run multiple CPUs in a
Yeah.
VDM?
Or as far as you know, it should be fine?
It should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never had a problem.
Is that
Yeah.
just like a wives' tale kind of? People have
Some
told me, oh,
people
don't
may
do
have had
that,
issues.
you're gonna have
Some people may have had issues. I don't see any problem with it. As long as the VM can handle it, yeah, there should be no problem.
Like VirtualBox.
Yeah,
Yeah,
VirtualBox
my
does
business is
okay.
using the crazy device.
Yeah, that should be no problem.
Okay, I'll
Should be able to
crank
do
it
it.
back up then.
Yeah.
Got a lot of CPUs.
I do have some things on the web here. So is the new ACPI PSD able to discriminate between energy and performance cores?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
No, I don't discriminate between energy and performance
And
cores.
this is and somebody else asked, will it be possible to have hyper-threading on and only disable the crippled cores? Which if you can't determine those, then you can't.
The problem with hyper-threading mainly was on older systems. The newer processors that are out these days, we don't have problems with hyper-threading anymore. Yeah. So I
They
kind of don't care about that anymore. There were, when it first came out, when Intel first developed this hyper-threading stuff, the fake cores weren't the same, and it caused us problems. Now, I have not seen problems with hyper-threading in a long time.
Nice.
And
So
then,
it doesn't make any sense to filter out these secondary cores these days.
I haven't.
I see.
It
Well, I
doesn't
didn't
cause,
see
you know,
any-
it might for performance reasons, I don't know. But the reason that there's this whole issue about hyper-threading is it used to actually cause us problems. It used to cause hangs and weird stuff would happen in your system. I haven't seen that for a long time.
and then another question there is, will it be possible to manually turn CPU cores on and off like in the old SMP server?
I have no idea what that means.
Well, there was a program that you used to be able to go in there and turn off a turn.
That program, oh, there is a program that does that, and no, you cannot have more than one of those things running at the same time. And the Power Manager is one of those things, and they will fight with each other. And in fact, I have code in the Power Manager to detect that and override it.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah, if you use this system.
Yeah, if you
whatever
use
it's
that
called,
tool,
system,
the Power Manager will
Monitor or something, you can
we'll just override it,
shut
put it
them
right back.
down and the Power Manager will just.
Just put it
turn
back.
them on again.
Yeah.
Or the other way around.
Yeah, it puts it the way it wants it, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's fine as long as it works. well.
If you want to do it manually, you got to stop the Power Manager. You got to turn it off, and then you can do it manually. Good. The other thing, ACPI updates. I'm trying. I don't keep up with that very much anymore because that's not changing anymore. They still have updates and things, but it's so rare. They might make one or two a year now. So we're pretty much up to date on that. MultiMac. The current release is 24.12.05, which is almost a year old now. Really, the only thing that got changed is the E1000 family of drivers. That means E1000B, MMIGB, and LEM. I think those three are all in the same family. There are some minor updates from the FreeBSD sources, so those got updated. I am working now trying to get the MMIGC driver working. This is for the I-225 and the I-226 chips. This is a big project. It's a big deal, mainly because the FreeBSD sources that we used to use or are using has changed drastically to become incompatible with OS2. So it's a major porting effort. And the amount of bloat those guys have added to their stuff is unbelievable. So it's a lot of work trying to decipher how this stuff is supposed to work and actually do a port rather than a recompile. So it's a lot of work.
This applies to the newest Realtek chips as well, I guess.
This is,
No. This problem with FreeBSD changing all of stuff.
yeah, they changed a lot, and I think a couple versions back, yeah, made big changes to their code base.
These are Intel chips?
Yes.
Yeah, those are Intel chips.
And is that like the one I have where?
Yeah, I believe so. It's also the one he's got in his box. Yeah. But unfortunately, working all these tickets and everything kind of takes my time away from working on this. I can't.
We'll stop at a ticket.
Yeah, stop with those tickets. Okay, USB. Current release is 12.17, coming in 12.18. The USB AXGE driver got a lot of work to enhance it for the newer 88179 chips, and that works really well now. Yeah, it actually works. It actually has really decent performance for how crappy the chip design is. I can explain why if you want.
What is an 88179 chip?
It's an ASICS. It's an ASIC, ASIX, ASICS
Oh, yeah.
chip.
Very
These are the
popular
gigabit
these
chips.
days.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
gigabit chip. USB 3 and gigabit.
Nice, okay.
That's this one, the one.
That's that one that you've got there, yeah.
I think every USB Ethernet adapter on an
A lot of them have
Every
that. A
second
lot of them have
one
that.
of them will have this chip.
Yeah,
Okay.
Please
yeah.
explain why.
Why? Well, yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that and the other ones, the MOS chip one and the ASIX one, the 100 megabit one. This is the gigabit one. First, while I'm remembering that, let me talk about that for a second. When you're using these things, you want to have it plugged in and the Ethernet cable connected and live when you boot your system. That way everything gets initialized properly. And the reason is that these devices are kind of an intermediary between USB stuff and NDIS, our networking stuff, our networking stack. It has to kind of coordinate and shuffle data back and forth between the two. So it has all the USB idiosyncrasies to deal with, and it has all the NDIS idiosyncrasies to deal with, and it has to kind of make both sides happy at the same time. And that's not really, that's an effort in coordination, really.
So they are not hot swappable or anything like that.
I'll get to that. No, they're not really hot swappable. The reason that the way these chips work and what I have to change for the newer ones, see, when you get, let's take incoming packets, because incoming packets, received packets is the big deal on these things. So if the Ethernet transmits a packet, then the device receives it, and it has to transmit that packet over USB. I've got to receive it in the driver, then I've got to re-ship it off to the network stack. Okay. Now that's all nice and easy the way it is for transmit. I get one packet, I queue up the packet and send it off to the USB, and then the chip deals with it, sending it off to the Ethernet. On the receive side, it would be really nice if it worked the same way. The Ethernet receives one packet, sends the one packet over USB, I get the one packet, I send it off to the network. That's not how it works with these chips. These chips buffer up a bunch of packets before ever sending them to me. The 88-179, the newer ones, buffer up a lot of packets. 10 to 20 packets it'll buffer up in the chip before ever sending them off via USB to me. So I get this buffer, a string of 20 packets or so, and then I got to parse through them and then send them off one at a time up to the network stack. You'd think that would be okay. Well, so as it's sending them over there, I would be able to just, okay, the first one comes in, and while the rest of them are coming, I could process this first one. But no. It's got to send all these 20, and that little header that tells me what's in this buffer comes at the end. So I have to receive all these packets and wait till the very end before I can start processing anything.
Why would they do that?
I have no idea. MOS chip doesn't. MOS chip puts the header at the front. Not only that, because it buffers so many packets, it can take several USB transfers to get the whole thing. So I have to receive one buffer, queue up another receive, get the next buffer, queue up another receive, get the next buffer, before I can finally get that header to start processing anything. And with the new 88-179, not only do they give me the packets, there's a dummy packet in between every single data packet. So I get double the number of packets that I need to process.
You mean it's the same size and full of junk?
They're empty. They're little empty ones, but I got to increment through all of them to get them all.
Wow.
Okay, so that's how these chips work. And even with all of that, I got really good, decent performance out of it too.
Nice.
I got like 16 megabytes per second transfer speeds on that
How
thing.
much again?
16 megabytes per second.
And this isn't,
Again, only 7.
That's
or 8
pretty good,
megabytes in my
given all
case.
that. Yeah,
this isn't
It's almost double.
88-179?
yeah, that's that one you have there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can these packet details explain why the receiving speed is actually lower than the transmitting speed? Because
I got receiving speed way faster than transmitting speed.
way faster.
When I was testing it, yeah.
Oh.
Transmit speed was a lot slower than receiving speed. I don't know why.
Despite that you have to do all this extra
Yeah.
processing.
Yeah.
Maybe you should package them up with the thing at the end.
Maybe I should. Anyway, that's what I had to deal with, getting these newer chips to work. So anyway, so it means I gotta double buffer stuff, so I gotta accumulate all this USB traffic in a big buffer, and then once I get it all, I can start processing and sending it off to the network stack. Yeah, about the initialization stuff, I think I went over that, right? I talked about getting stuff set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a situation where, oh, hot swapping, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to go over. When the network drivers load and they actually get bound to the protocol stack, that bind operation happens once, and there is no way to refresh things after that bind operation has happened. So, if you don't have the device plugged in when you boot up and the bind operation happens, there's no way for the protocols to know the MAC address, for example, or anything about the network driver, because the network driver wasn't there when the bind operation occurred. So I can't supply all that information. So that's why it has to be plugged in so that the USB can read the data out of the device so that it can be provided upline.
Is the MAC address provided by this little
It's
thing?
in that little box, yeah.
So, but if the Ethernet is not plugged in, that's still available?
Yes,
If it's connected.
yes, as long as it's plugged in,
Plugged into the USB thing?
yes.
But you could do it without the Ethernet cable and then plug it in later?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could plug in the Ethernet cable later and it would probably work. However, these newer chips, the 88179, the gigabit chips, negotiate your Ethernet speed also. And that is also passed upline in the bind. And if the Ethernet cable is not plugged in, it's going to default to 100 megabit speeds.
Oh, okay.
Good call out.
Okay, so you want it plugged in so that at initialization time, it can load up all the right constants. These devices configure themselves, the driver configures them based on USB speed and internet speed. It uses different constants. I don't know what these constants are. I stole them out of the FreeBSD driver because there's no documentation on this stuff. But they're different constants based on different speeds, so they must do something inside the chip. So yeah, you want
So
everything
that-
plugged in so everything gets configured at the right speeds
So
for you.
that combo of USB 3 and the gigabit is good?
Yeah, it will actually negotiate all those things and configure things appropriately for those speeds, yeah.
So do the free BSD people have some kind of special relationship with the?
You know what I think happens in a lot of these cases is the vendor will write the Linux or FreeBSD driver and give them the source. So they don't have the specs, but the vendor did, but they have the driver, and then you just got to reverse engineer that stuff. Anything else? I think that's it. Pretty good for USB. That was quite a bit of work. Oh, USB SCR also got enhanced to work with the F232 devices. That was mainly because those devices calculate their baud rate differently. That was the only thing I had to fix.
So that's a virtual, like RS-232?
Yes, exactly. That's what that is. There are two drivers that will handle these RS-232 things, USB SCR and USB COM. They handle different classes of chips because the chips work differently. The way they transfer stuff works differently. That's why there's two drivers. Early builds of these things are available on the experimental builds page. Everybody know where that is?
Mm-hmm.
You go to the ArcaOS website, you click on resources, downloads, and the very thing at the bottom is your experimental builds. Okay. Panorama. Current release version is 1.20. Nothing really changed in this. The reason there's a new version is because of all the non-English language release. Mainly they have font and language enhancements to accommodate all of our different languages. That's really the only thing that changed in there. And you've probably been using that already for a while.
Like it was having trouble rendering double byte characters or something? Or what do you mean?
As I recall there was font size issues in the dialogues, the setup dialogues. Now those are dynamically changeable. There were the help and the dialogues were not set up for the different languages. That's mainly the changes that were made. Now, in all the different languages that we ship, when you open the Panorama dialogues, you know, for the settings, those will be in the right languages now. Those are the kind of things that were changed.
Gotcha.
The AHCI driver is currently at release 2.09. Most of you are probably already using that. If you're not, you should be. It has some minor things. It's like a workaround to help with some VirtualBox issues. There was some minor things with error recovery. If you have some controllers that kind of give errors a lot, they can recover better now. And there are some non-standard controllers, and this driver does have a quirk database in it that I can add some quirks to special case certain controllers if we know there are problems. NVMe, whoops. There's no known problems in the current release version 1.02. If you're still using 1.01, you should upgrade because 1.02 has timeout capability built into it. In other words, if certain transactions times out, it won't just die, it'll recover and keep going. You should never see that. That's only if you have errors and problems and things. That's been a real reliable driver. I'm using it myself quite a bit. JFS current version is 1.09.10. Most people are probably already using this all the way we ship it in the latest ArcaOS. The latest thing that got changed is there was a trap if you get a media error, an actual disk read error, while you're writing an extended attribute or ACL. Weird. It's a weird thing, but it happened. I caught it. We got the trap. I debugged it and fixed it. AMouse got totally rewritten. I don't know if that's out there yet. Is that in 5.1?
401 is, yeah.
401 is, okay.
402 is coming in.
402 is coming.
502.
It's a major rewrite from version 3. Version 3 was 100% assembler. Version 4 is almost all C code. It handles more mice types, it handles more trackpad types. The uninstall is fixed. I don't know if you remember there was this weirdness where if you uninstalled AMouse, then you have to go fix up your config.sys.
Because you lost all mouse drivers.
Yeah, now that's fixed. That doesn't happen anymore.
Nice.
It also has automatic VMware and VirtualBox mouse integration,
Yeah, that works
Nice.
well.
which is nice when you're installing.
Yeah.
You still want to install the VirtualBox editions because that is better and has more features. The only thing in AMouse is the mouse integration. It doesn't have any of the other features.
So you replace that with the VirtualBox provided mouse driver? Is that what you're saying?
When you install ArcaOS in VirtualBox, you'll have the option to install the VirtualBox editions. You should still do that.
Okay, and that
It'll replace AMouse. It'll take
Okay,
AMouse
that's
out and put the
And that gives
VirtualBox.
you the shared clipboard.
Yeah, you get the shared clipboards. You get there's a whole bunch of stuff. You
Yeah.
get shared
I
folders.
mean, I haven't, I just.
All that stuff. Yeah, you get a whole bunch of nice features in their editions. And I think that's it. There is one problem I'll mention here, even though in all my work and trying to figure out what it is, I don't think it's an AMouse problem. I think it's in the VDM itself. When you're in a VDM and you want to use absolute mouse coordinates as opposed to relative mouse coordinates, do I need to explain what the difference is? No? Everybody knows?
It's been a long time.
Well, there are two ways to report mouse coordinates. You can either use relative, which means from where you are, go 10 this way and 5 that way, or you can give it an absolute screen coordinate,
The touchscreen.
as if you had a touch screen or a tablet or something. But you can even some mice will give you absolute coordinates as well. Most mice use relative coordinates. However, there are, in some cases, we use absolute coordinates. I'm trying to think of where that, where this comes up is some of these virtual machines like VirtualBox or VMware specifically likes to provide absolute coordinates as opposed to relative coordinates. If you're in a full screen VDM, absolute coordinates don't work.
They what?
Don't
don't.
work.
They don't work.
No, not properly. You can only move around in about half the screen. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. And as far as I can tell, the mouse driver is working correctly. It's the VDM that is not working right. And I didn't get further than that. I don't know if anybody's noticed that.
In Windows.
If
yeah,
you're in a
OS 2 says
VDM, in
full
other words,
screen.
if you're in WinOS 2, full screen, not window. Window works, full screen.
Yeah,
You'll
I've seen
find
that.
you can't move all over
Yeah,
the screen.
Yeah, I found that in a non-UEFI
Yeah.
machine.
It doesn't matter, UEFI or not, doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
I always thought I was an idiot, because I noticed that same thing too, it just never worked.
Yeah,
But there is a driver, there is,
If you-
some guy made a Windows 3.5, 3.1 driver that works on OS2, and I can move it down.
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah. Even if you're using the VirtualBox editions, which doesn't use AMouse, uses their own VirtualBox mouse driver, it still happens there with that driver too.
Weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, this guy has a fix for the virtual.
it's a Windows fix.
Yeah, it's a Windows fix, yeah.
I guess
Interesting.
it'd still have a problem if it was running a DOS, like a regular DOS program that was mouse aware. It would
Yeah,
still have
yeah.
trouble.
If you're regular DOS program that's mouse aware, yes, you'll have the same problem. If you're using absolute mouse coordinates, yeah. Weird thing. Yeah.
Well,
I know about it. I can't fix it. I have not fixed it yet.
Yeah.
Are you trying it out?
Yeah.
It'll only go part way down. It won't go all the way down.
Yeah, we'll go all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
We're trying
Yeah.
to- two different things here online. We
Yeah.
got,
Sure,
one is JFS feature request, write EA long name in the driver to a recovery.
This guy is an open source
What?
driver.
So, what he's wanting to do, is that when you write a file name, when you're creating a file, and you put the file name in there, once an EA written as the long name. What happens is that if you delete a JFS file and you use something to try to undelete, if you have the EAs on there, on that long name, you can see the name. Otherwise, you just see inodes, so you have no idea what the file is. I don't know that there's any way to do what he's wanting, but that's
Not
what
that I
he's
know
after.
of, no.
That's what he's after, because when you sit there and delete the file and you try to
Yeah.
undelete it, there's no way to know what the file is without that long name EA. Then the other thing here, let's see, there were what was that? Something scrolled on me. Oh, I did. Okay, that was just saying it was. Oh, it's talking about the only half the screen being reachable, so we've already
Yeah,
discussed that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't reach the okay to close it.
Yeah, you can't. It's so frustrating. Yeah.
Keyboard still works.
I worked on that for quite a while, I was tracing the coordinates all the way through the code, and as near as I can tell, I'm passing the right coordinates up to the VDM, and it's just not handling it right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So window mode only.
Uniaud, the current released GA version is from way back in 2021. It contains Uniaud version 1.9.7 and Uniaud 32.30103. There are some newer builds that Paul has built for us. They are on the experimental builds page. They all contain Uniaud 16 version 1.9.8 and various versions, newer versions of Uniaud 32. They all have issues.
They have issues?
There's minor, really minor, small issues. So they're there, so you can try whichever one, and if you like them, use them. If they work for you, use them. But none of them are perfect. None of them work as well well, I shouldn't say well, because the newer ones obviously work on newer hardware, but they have issues that this 30103 do not have.
Sure.
Like, for example, on a T60, these newer versions will only work the first time you boot from power off. If you reboot, they stop working.
Huh.
So that's one issue. There are others.
Do the newer ones have issues on the same chips that the older ones don't have the issues on, or is it only
Yes.
the newer chips?
Yes, the newer
Okay.
ones have issues on the same chips the older
So
ones
they've
don't
they've
have.
introduced new issues.
Yes, yes. And I've tried to find them. I'm sure Paul's worked on them too.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of time to be hunting in huge pieces of code, and Uniaud is a huge piece of code. Okay. Tickets.
We've been over that.
I wanted to talk about this just a little bit.
We're over.
You have the floor.
This doesn't, okay.
Just joking.
Okay, I had changed this and it apparently did not get updated on my device. Okay, the first bullet, what I changed it to while I was just back there listening, it says what Alex said. Because he's right, he's absolutely right. And basically, describe what's happening. If you have a problem, we need to know what happened. Everything Alex said is exactly spot on. Give us the context, describe what's happening. Yeah, you can do some troubleshooting and stuff, fine, but when you open a ticket, don't try and tell us what you think is happening. Tell us what you see happening. And I would add, don't forget the TestLog file. Now, I have some pet peeves that I want to go over just very briefly.
Okay.
Good, this is all, okay. It only got half of my changes. Anyway, when you're responding, if a developer asks you a question, answer that question, not something else. If I ask you to run a test, do that test, not something else. Like if I say, it looks like the device isn't working quite right, can you please do this, X, Y, and Z? And if you come back, well, it works on Windows. I don't care if it works on Windows or Linux or whatever.
You know, you may not care if it works or doesn't work on Linux or Windows.
I don't care. It doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't mean the device isn't bad.
But it doesn't mean the device isn't not bad.
It doesn't mean the device.
That there isn't something in a fundamental conversational layer between two pieces of software.
It doesn't mean the
that isn't
device is
quite
working properly. It does not mean there's nothing wrong with the device. I don't care. I care whether it does, and that really doesn't matter. The most important thing is you didn't answer my question. You didn't do the test I asked you to. That's the main thing. Because when I'm working a ticket, I have in my mind the whole system, how everything's working, how data is flowing from one place to the next, and I'm seeing this thing right here in the middle where stuff's not working. So I'll ask you, try this so I can see what may be going on. I'm asking for the test for a very specific reason. So I can get the data I need to move on to the next step.
No, I know better what you need.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I get.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help your ticket. It makes things go slower.
The guy who was working on that machine has spent 40 years diagnosing PC issues. So it's not like we don't know anything.
I understand that. But I'm asking a question for a specific reason. If you don't give me the data I asked for, I can't help you. That's my point. And I'll wait and ask it again, or not. And if I go too many times, if I ask for stuff and I keep not getting it back, I'll just move on, close the ticket and say non-responsive.
When we have ticket discussions in our staff meetings, and one of us is just absolutely flustered as to, I've tried asking for this 4 different times in 4 different ways, and I keep getting
Something
different
else.
information related to something else. Steve's answer always is, ask the question again.
Yeah, that is Steve's. Ask again.
Make the request again. Steve, I've asked 4 times, make it again.
Yeah, that's true. Just keep asking. I forgot to take all these builds out. Okay, let me mention a little bit about the TestLog program. Everybody knows what this is, right? It provides a comprehensive information about your system as a whole. Whenever you run this, please try and make sure you use the latest version. I don't update it very much anymore because it's kind of mature. However, anytime there's an update to a driver or a new driver, there might be an update to the TestLog, because the TestLog program doesn't just tell me what kind of system you have and what you have, what devices are in it and what software is installed. It actually does a very in-depth, invasive analysis of the drivers and what's going on in your system at the time you run it. It's capable of doing a deep dive into the drivers and extracting information that you can't see any other way at the time you run it. So whatever's going on in the system, I can see exactly what's going on in the system. So you can't use a test log you took last week. Oh, it's the same system, I'll just attach it to this ticket. That's no good. Run a new one at the time the problem is there, or at least as close to the time the problem is there, because I see the real-time data in the hardware, in the test log file.
Because it's reading the debug data basically from the drivers.
It's doing more than that.
More than that.
It's doing, yes, it reads the debug buffers from the drivers, but it's also capable of poking directly into the driver. It has super user privileges, basically, and it can read anywhere in system memory. It can read drivers. It can actually look at hardware. It can do lots of stuff you wouldn't think that an application could do.
You would probably ask anyway, but
Yeah.
if I have a system that hangs on the boot logo, and you want a test log, well, I'm going to have to boot it again.
You can't.
When
No,
it
there's certain
doesn't
cases.
hang.
There's certain cases you can't.
Yeah, I can give you one when it didn't hang, but not
Yeah,
one
and,
when it
and
hung.
we got to work around problems like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times there are situations where it's useful, but
Yeah.
in situations where you have a hang, you can't. There is one case, the last item. If you ever produce a trap screen, if you ever give us a trap screen, always include a contemporary test log file with it, as quickly either before or after
Okay.
you got the
That
trap
is-
screen.
Yeah.
Because there's hardware information in the trap. For 32-bit drivers, the trap screen is useless without base addresses of the drivers. And that's in the test log file. See, I can't, 16-bit drivers is easy because you only got 16 bits. For 32-bit drivers, the thing could be anywhere. I need to know where the driver's loaded so I can find,
Do they load at the same address every time you boot up, as long as you haven't changed anything?
yes, as long as you haven't changed anything. Yeah, usually, yeah. That's why, sometime before or after, as long as there's been no configuration change. Okay?
Well, what you need to do is, after you've opened your ticket and described the problem, then ask for the test log, shuffle the drivers around.
Yeah.
Then
Believe
run
it
the
or
test
not, that
log.
happens. I've seen that.
Yes, it
Careful
does.
what you ask for.
It
Yeah.
does happen. It happens all the time. The other great one is, and I don't want to interrupt you, but
No,
this is
that's
very
fine. This is the
important.
end.
I'm not attaching a test log here because I already attached a test log on ticket blah blah blah.
I've seen that too. And that's why I tried to mention that. No, it's not good enough. The test log is I call it invasive. It really is an invasive program. It's got its fingers in everything when you run it. And it captures lots of stuff about the system as it is at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a description.
No, it's not
You
just a
can go fetch
descriptive
from
thing.
somewhere else.
No,
It's like
Your
a
config
megabyte
is
of
down.
text.
It is.
I'm sorry?
It's huge.
It's not just your config is down. But
No,
It's
it has
everything.
that, but it's got a lot more.
Like memory mappings and things like that.
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
memory mappings in there, yeah.
It's actually helpful for, I think I had an
It
issue
has,
with video.
it has interrupt statistics,
Found
it
that.
has disk statistics, lots of stuff. It has read out all the BIOS variables is in there.
The tickets that I like are, my USB device isn't being recognized. And then you get the test log and you say, well, no, this USB device is being recognized. We're querying it, it's not answering. And you can see that in the test log.
Yeah.
But the guy looking at the screen just says it's not working.
Right, I can see all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I can even see, in these network adapters, I can I've got statistics in the driver that tells me how many packets have been received, how many have been sent, how many errors there have been. For all the different interfaces, I got statistics for the NDIS section, I got statistics for the USB side. I can see everything that's been happening.
You can't, there's no way for us to see that, right?
Or you can read the test
Oh,
log.
run a
So
test log
this
and look
is,
at it.
Yeah.
This is how you
Oh, in
figure
test
it
log?
out.
No,
that
I mean,
it was really slow.
I mean in real time.
Yeah,
machines
that's
run.
partially
No,
how,
that's-
yeah.
That's the.
And I can
I
tell,
just-
I can even
Right.
tell whether the bind succeeded or not.
One of the
You know, the
thing-
bind between the protocol and the adapter, I can tell whether that worked or it didn't work.
One other thing I ought to mention is only run it one time per boot.
That's true, yes. One of the things the TestLog program does is it reads the buffers. A lot of the drivers keep a debug buffer of status stuff in there, and it reads those out, and the act of reading it clears the buffer. So you can only do that once every time you boot.
And how, is it in most cases or only in certain cases that the machine needs to run for some period of time before?
Well, that really depends on the information I need.
So,
Like recently, I asked somebody to let the machine sit for 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. And the reason I wanted that is I wanted to actually have network traffic flowing so that I could see whether the packets are going all the way through the chain or not. If you boot it up and run the test log and it's only been 30 seconds or 60 seconds, there may not be any or very many network packets flowing. And I want to see the whole chain, because I can see everything. I can see when they come in from the USB. I can see as they flow through the driver. I can see them go up the network stack. I can see all that stuff.
What about this I to C stuff? You think there's
I2C,
snowball's chance in hell that's gonna get
close.
That's helpful.
Snowball's chance in Arkansas?
You know, if we have somebody who wants to work on it, I've done a little bit of work. I've
Hey.
written some code to parse the ACPI tables looking for the devices. And that did not go very well. I did find some, but there's so many, and there's so many different kinds, and they have so many different interfaces.
And
Some
you
of
need a
them,
machine.
some of them do port I/O, some of them do memory I/O, some of them need ACPI functions. It's all over the place.
Why did they do this?
I don't know.
What about our friend here, the device driver?
Yeah, there you go. Hey, how about them Wi-Fi drivers?
Hey, I need to know what rooms people are staying in.
Anyway, that's it. If there's any more questions, you're very welcome.